All right. Welcome to SARVAC's webinar celebrating GSAR volunteers. As you know, we're hosting this webinar in celebration of Emergency Preparedness Week, which is this week. And it's an opportunity for all of us to take some time to reflect on those incidents and events of the past, and more particularly those that are currently happening today. It's an opportunity for us to come together and learn, and it's an opportunity to celebrate our accomplishments. So welcome. Before we go any further, it's important that you all know, please understand that we are recording this session, and the recording will be made available on SARVAC's YouTube channel for any that might like a copy if you want to share with friends, family, or teammates within your search and rescue jurisdictions. Excuse me. I'm your host, Lawrence Conway. I am the project manager for the humanitarian workforce for SARVAC. And tonight, my only job is going to be to host and to guide you through this webinar. The theme for this year's Emergency Preparedness Week is Be Prepared and Know Your Risks. And we will certainly have an interesting panel discussion today where our panelists certainly have had the opportunity to have to be prepared on their missions and undoubtedly have faced a number of risks. And that will definitely be an interesting conversation a little bit later. And we'll get to that hopefully shortly. As well, if any of you have any questions or issues during this webinar, please feel free to put any questions or concerns you might have in the chat room. We have people monitoring them, and we'll do our best to address them as the session goes along. We hope this will be an engaging session for you, and you find something that you can take away as a learning opportunity. Just to give you a sense of how things will unfold tonight, I'm going to be speaking quickly about what is the humanitarian workforce, the program that SARVAC currently is running. Then following that, we'll introduce Paul French, who is our moderator for the panel discussion this evening. And we'll have a great session with 3 persons who are ground search and rescue volunteers from across Canada. Following this, I'll speak a little bit about what is SARVAC doing to protect its volunteers and those that deploy under the Humanitarian Workforce Program. So that'll be a conversation about insurance and things exciting like that. And finally, we'll give you a chance, the participants. We're going to open up the mics. We're going to give you an opportunity to ask any questions that you might have about anything you've heard from this evening. But before we go any further, I just want to start off with a land acknowledgement. We acknowledge and we honor the traditional territories of First Nations, Inuit, and Métis people who have stewarded these lands since time immemorial. As a national organization, we are grateful to live, to work, and to learn here. We commit to reconciliation by listening, by learning, and being respectful of the relationships rooted in mutual understanding. I will ask also that each of you take a moment to acknowledge and honor the traditional territories of First Nations, Inuit, and or Métis peoples in whichever territory you are in today. Thank you and miigwech. And before we go any further, I want to introduce Janelle Coultes. Janelle is the president of SARVAC, and she has a few words of welcome for all of you. Janelle.
Great. Thank you, Lawrence. So, as all of you are aware, SARVAC is what we call an association of associations. And what that means is that all of us are on teams from all across Canada, and all of those teams are a part of a provincial or territorial association. And then SARVAC represents all of those provinces and territories. So across all of Canada, we have almost 300 teams. We have over 9,000 members, and all of them are coming from teams just like yours. All of our dedicated volunteers are people who are ready to drop everything at a moment's notice. And the humanitarian workforce takes that a step further by asking people to deploy maybe for several hours, maybe for several days, maybe for several weeks, and could take travel to get there. So we'll be talking more about the humanitarian workforce and what that means. But having people like you that are willing and able to do things like that as volunteers is truly inspiring. On behalf of SARVAC, I wanted to thank all of you for being here tonight, but also for being those ground search and rescue volunteers across Canada that we can depend on at a moment's notice. So with that, I'll turn it back over to Lawrence. And again, thank you for being here.
All right. Thank you very much, Janelle. All right. So we want to start off this evening by getting a sense of who's out there right now. So I'm going to ask Scott, our communications person, to bring up a poll. We're going to do a poll. It's a virtual poll to find out who's coming in and from what province. So we're going to ask you to fill it out. We're going to give you 1 minute and we'll see what kind of responses we're getting. I can say right now that we're getting big responses from Ontario, 15, 18, 19, 20 people. I think a strong second is Newfoundland with 5 or 6 people. We're hoping we can see some increases in other provinces. Prince Edward Island, we have 2 people. Quebec, we have 5 people. Nova Scotia, it's great to see folks in Nova Scotia. We know how busy you have been as of late. So 4 people, we very much appreciate your attendance. We have a couple of people from New Brunswick with us as well. All right. So we're coming up at about 90% response rate to our poll. I see we have about 10 people from Alberta, 11 from Saskatchewan, 4 from Manitoba. Yukon Territories have representation and Northwest Territories. We have 1 person from outside of Canada. Welcome. All right. Well, that looks like we have a pretty good representation from across Canada. So thank you all very much for doing that. And we're going to end the poll at this point. So I want to start getting into the humanitarian workforce and what it is. So the humanitarian workforce is a program created by the federal government coming out of COVID. So COVID 2019, the government of Canada recognized that they had challenges in responding to the demands on the emergency management system. The Canadian forces were being taxed to the limit, and they brought in the Canadian Red Cross to provide support. And building on that recognition of that the civil society has an ability and a capability to respond to events, they expanded the program to include other organizations. And those other organizations include Search and Rescue Volunteer Association of Canada, so that is us. As I mentioned, the Red Cross, Salvation Army, St. John's Ambulance, and most recently, we've been joined by Team Rubicon. So these 5 entities make up what is the humanitarian workforce. And although we all had the same objective of building response capability to respond to large-scale events, our approaches to these events have differed somewhat. So we want to take a moment and share with you a little bit about what the approach from SARVAC has been. And that's going to be the focus of our conversation tonight, SARVAC's approach to the humanitarian workforce. So Scott, I'm going to ask you if you could bring up the video, please.
From the tranquil shores of the East Coast, through the vast expanse of the prairies, to the majestic Rockies of the West, there lies an unparalleled spirit. A spirit that answers when the call is made. Over 9,000 ground search and rescue volunteers make up the Search and Rescue Volunteer Association of Canada, bound by purpose and dedication. Each ground search and rescue team is a beacon of hope in times of emergency. In the chilling grip of uncertainty, when every second counts and hope seems distant, there's a force that stands devoted. Canada's vastness is both our pride and our challenge. But no emergency is too severe, no community too distant for the 300 ground search and rescue teams that comprise the Search and Rescue Volunteer Association of Canada. Every request for assistance is a promise to serve, to render aid where the need is greatest, to protect our communities in their darkest hours. For every smile restored, for every hug rekindled, For every sigh of relief, there's a story of perseverance, skill, and unmatched determination. While answering the call as responders, they are also our neighbors, our friends, our family. Giving their all and working together to achieve a common goal. To the over 9,000 ground search and rescue members that make up the Search and Rescue Volunteer Association of Canada. Canada sees you, appreciates you, and stands proud because of you. We are proud, strong and united. The humanitarian workforce of the Search and Rescue Volunteer Association of Canada brings us all together in a united front and in a time of need. Your valor and sacrifice make us all safer, and makes Canada stronger. Thank you for responding to the call.
All right. Thank you very much for playing that, Scott. So as the video suggested, we really are members of community, helping communities in crisis and communities in distress. And that's really what the humanitarian workforce is about. That's what SARVAC's role is bringing aid to those communities in crisis. And we've been doing this as a community, the ground search and rescue community, for a number of years. This is nothing new for us. We've been doing it for decades upon decades. But what is new is our ability to leverage the 10,000 volunteers we have across Canada and 300 communities and bring them together under one kind of process and one program to respond to large-scale events. So we've started off our program very modestly with a small response in Deer Lake a number of years ago. It was about 8 or 10 people. And we've scaled up that program in the last couple of years, where we've had responses of 100 people in Labrador, and we've had other responses that we've ramped up to 150 people. We just never actually deployed. But in the last couple of years, we've built a capability to allow us to build that response capability and to serve the communities across the country. A key point of the humanitarian workforce, and I kind of alluded to this earlier, is the fact that we've all approached it. We, the 5 partners within the humanitarian workforce, we've approached it somewhat differently. The Red Cross has been doing emergency management for a number of years, about 20 years, and they just essentially built on pre-existing capabilities and just augmented those capabilities. And other teams have done comparable things. What is new with SARVAC is, prior to the humanitarian workforce, SARVAC did not have an operational role. It was an association that represented the provincial and territorial associations, but didn't really play in operations. What's new with this is it now has an operational role. It actually has a mission incident support teams on the ground that it deploys, the national incident support team, virtual team that supports all deployments, and it provides command and control over operations within the scope of the humanitarian workforce missions. So it's a fantastic program and something we're very, very excited about. And on that, we're going to have a conversation with a group of folks who've had firsthand experience with missions on the ground under the humanitarian workforce banner. And we're very fortunate to have with us this evening Mr. Paul French, who is going to be our moderator for that session. Paul is I want to say a long-standing member. He's got a few years in. He's been in search and rescue as a volunteer for about 18 years in Newfoundland. He's on the team, the Rovers team in Newfoundland. Paul actually is the president of the team in Newfoundland and has been doing that for the last 2 years. And he's also an active instructor with the team on a whole variety of skills. So there's pretty much anything you want to learn about search and rescue, there's a good chance Paul can teach it to you. In addition to this, Paul's been with Search and Rescue Volunteer Association of Canada for the last decade. So for 10 years, he's been with SARVAC. And the last 2, he's been in the role of program director for the humanitarian workforce. So he's been leading the charge in the development of this program. And as of July 1st of this year, Paul's going to be assuming the role of executive director of SARVAC. So he'll be providing overarching leadership for Search and Rescue Volunteer Association in Canada going forward. So with that, I'm going to welcome Paul French, and he's going to moderate our session.
Thank you, Lawrence. Can you hear me okay?
I can hear you great, Paul.
Excellent. Thanks, Lawrence, and welcome everybody. Thanks for taking the time to be with us this evening, or maybe watching online the recording afterwards. It's great to have so many folks with us and to be able to share some important messages, specifically with the responders who are here who have joined us as panelists tonight. I want to welcome those from the ground search and rescue community to be able to share their experiences with us from recent SARVAC humanitarian workforce operations and or training. So we have three panelists with us tonight. And first, I'd like to introduce Ross Annett of Sauvetage, Bénévole, Outaouais, Ottawa, Volunteer Search and Rescue group, also known as SBO-OVSAR, and I apologize for my French up front. Ross is in Ottawa, Ontario, and he's relatively new to the GSAR world. Recently participated in the fall full-scale exercise Effective Impact 2024 in Ottawa, Ontario, during which time he contributed to field navigation, command post setup, mock damage assessments. Ross has also worked closely with the team leads on SAR coordination and interagency collaboration during his time with SBO-OVSAR. And Ross, before I go any further, I'll just pause to see if there's anything else you would like to add about yourself.
Oh, please. I think you've already said enough about me. Thanks, Paul.
All good, Ross. Next, we have Victoria Burry with the Triple Bay Eagles Ground Search and Rescue, based out of Clarenville, Newfoundland and Labrador. Victoria is also recently new, just over 2 years, I believe, with the Ground Search and Rescue team. Recently completed her first deployment during the Labrador City wildfire response, where she supported fire watch initiatives, traffic control, security deployments, and so on and so forth. Victoria brings a wealth of knowledge and experience in complex and multi-agency response. And Victoria, we're very glad to have you with us this evening. Is there anything you would like to share about yourself?
No, that was plenty.
It's really hard to talk about ourselves, isn't it? Lastly, we have Pierluc Seguin with Sauvetage, Bénévole, Outaouais, Ontario Volunteer Search and Rescue, Ottawa Volunteer Search and Rescue. My apologies again, SBO friends. Based in Ottawa, Ontario, Pierluc joined in 2013, coming from a background of adventure racing. He founded the SAR mountain bike team in his first year, which is still active today. Very passionate about the outdoors and helping others. Participated in the Deer Lake First Nation deployment, which was the first one for SARVAC HWF, and also took part in the full-scale exercise Effective Impact 2024. Pierluc, is there anything that you would like to add about yourself?
Hi, Paul. Hi, everyone. Nice to be with you tonight, but nothing else to add on myself.
Thank you very much, Pierluc, and thanks to Ross, Victoria, and Pierluc. Very happy for you were able to join us and share your experiences and some of your lessons learned and takeaways from the field. So next slide, Lawrence, please. So next, we're going to get into a bit more of a guided discussion and moderated discussion. And we've sort of broken down the discussion into 4 key categories. One with regards to deployment experiences, another with regards to field challenges, a third one with regards to personal growth, and lastly, program and community impact. Next slide, please, Lawrence. So as we focus on deployment experiences, and I want to hear from everybody here, and Pierluc, if it's okay, I'll start with you, but wonder if you can tell me a little bit about your experience during the deployment in Deer Lake First Nation. That was back in 2021. This was the first deployment of the SARVAC Humanitarian Workforce, and I wonder if you could tell us a little bit about it and what you did during that deployment.
Yeah, how long do we have, Paul? Just kidding. So yes, as you said, this was the first deployment under this new program. It was new. Everything was new. Everything we did was new. So there was a lot of unknowns, which was an experience on itself. Um, not knowing where we would be sleeping was one of them. Not knowing what we would be doing over there was another one. How to dress, what to bring. You don't want to bring all your gear with you on a plane, and so small plane, so we were limited in the equipment, all that. So that was quite interesting. We got there. We were living out of the school, which was closed. The entire community was confined with COVID, and so the mission was to deploy to this fly-in only community and help where the community needed help. And so we deployed not knowing what we would be doing. We got there, and some of us were chopping wood to eat up the houses and all of that. Most of us got deployed to the health clinic. That's where they needed help, and we got there, and they gave us a few items on the list, and we banged through that list in a few hours, I would say. And so the next morning, that list exploded. They knew what we could do, and so they gave us a bunch of tasks, ranging from cleaning to organizing the clinic to building or assembling furnitures for the clinic. People were before we got there. People were in the wait. It was a new clinic. People were in the wait room, standing up because they didn't have chairs. Well, they did have chairs, but they were not assembled. And so we assembled that for them. We also deployed in Deer Lake with the Army. The Army was there before us, and the Rangers were also there. And so they ran, and we helped them run I'm going to call it a community center where families, members of the community could come and pick up whether it's food, drinks, water, etc. So this was also needed by the community. So essentially we deployed there and got told what they wanted, and we tried our best to accommodate or do all those things. Some things we couldn't do, like fixing cars, like the clinic had a car. They asked us to look at it. Some of us had backgrounds in mechanics, so they looked at it. They needed parts, and so we couldn't fix it. But essentially, did a lot of things that they wanted us to do, and yeah, it was eye-opening experience for me, and never been in close proximity to an indigenous community, and so that was eye-opening for me, and yeah, just an overall great experience to interact with the community, with other teams as well. So we ourselves, the Ottawa team deployed there. We had 3 people, but then other teams across Ontario also deployed there. So a total of 10 people, I believe. And so interacting with other people was just a great experience.
Thanks for that, Pierluc. And so, I guess my takeaway from that is that it was, it was a very broad request and very many different levels of support. And I'm sure, other panelists will sort of speak to it later, but sometimes our service offering is much more distinct and definitive, whereas the deployment to Deer Lake First Nation, although it was there for support initially and transferring food and whatnot to community members, it got very broad and as we met the community members and whatnot, more and more requests came in, which is typical, and you folks done a great job in supporting those requests the best you can. So thanks for that, Pierluc. Ross, similar question, but just wondering, with your experience from full-scale exercise Effective Impact 2024, Could you share a memorable moment from your participation in the Ottawa exercise?
Thanks for the question, Paul. For me, I think the one moment that really stands out was as I was introduced to my team. I realized that I was the only person from Ontario. There was members from the Maritimes, there was members from the far west, there was members from the far north. Every single person was from a different team. No one knew each other, but we all spoke the same language. And by that I mean the terminology of SAR is universal across the country and came together immediately and very effectively. So kudos to SARVAC and kudos to the teams across the country. And a special shout out to my own team, SBO.
Thanks, Ross. I guess, it all goes back to the GSAR standards and the standardized training curriculums that we have in place. And now we're moving to the rolling out of the certification program and whatnot. Based off your response there, I take it that these are sort of key components in ensuring that no matter where we come from, what coast, or anywhere in between that we're responding to, is that these sort of what I would, classify as cornerstone stone pieces and initiatives for SARVAC are really key when we're breaking down those provincial barriers. Would you agree with that?
Absolutely. It was tremendous and floored me how quickly we meshed together very well. As soon as we got our first tasking, we were immediately effective at carrying it out. We all moved with the same purpose as one. It was tremendous.
Great. Thanks again, Ross. Victoria, moving over to yourself, wondering if you can tell us a little bit about your role during the wildfire evacuation in Labrador City, and what were some of the key takeaways from that deployment? And what were some of the tasks that you were asked to do?
Yeah, absolutely. Really excited to share the experience. It was wonderful. It was my first deployment, and still being relatively new, I certainly gained a lot of experience from it. Our role was to mainly support the Red Cross. So my whole background is Red Cross. So when I got there in a GSAR capacity versus a Red Cross capacity, it was like my two lives just came together, and it was a wonderful thing. So their role was to shelter the evacuees that were coming from Lab City into the Churchill Falls camp. So our role was to help support them with that. So we provided like security on the gate, fire watch. We assisted with the Salvation Army. Of course, they were in charge of the like the food and those sorts of things up there. So if there was a food truck coming in, we had to help get a team together to go offload it, some things like that. We also provided the security for the highway blockade so that everybody could stay out of that evacuated area until it was safe to be reintroduced to that city. So it was quite a lot of roles, and we all took shifts doing all of it. So we were kept quite busy while we were there. I actually know two of the three guys in that picture just from being there in Lab City. So with regard to the takeaways, it was quite amazing to be able to see how all the different agencies just came together and they blended like seamlessly to fill all the gaps and holes that needed to be done to provide like the best experience for the people that have been evacuated. So of course, no one's totally comfortable. They're not at home. They're worried about their homes and these sorts of things. But to kind of give them the best sorts of comfort, that we could while we were there, so that they did have a nice place to sleep and to feel safe in it, and to know that they weren't going to be hungry and those kinds of things. But it was amazing just to see at the command post the logistics that went into coordinating all of that. It was quite a thing to be able to see.
Excellent, thank you. And it was it was definitely a new experience for some, and it was an absolutely successful experience from our perspective. And thanks again for sharing that. Lawrence, if we could switch slides to our next topic, which is field challenges. And Pierluc, I'm going to come back to you and just, understanding again that our deployment to Deer Lake First Nation was a first for SARVAC HWF. And we were, certainly anxious enough about it, and I'm sure the team on the ground was as well. Can you tell me what some of the biggest challenges were that you encountered in the field and sort of how you navigated around those?
Yes, thank you, Paul. As I said, first deployment, not knowing what we were up to, really. Getting there was a challenge for SARVAC, for everyone, because this was a first. Not knowing the equipment you need. We as a SAR volunteer, our 24-hour pack is the most important thing, right? And we strive on gear, right? So these types of deployments are different, right? And so you kind of have to go through your equipment, but you're gonna leave some stuff behind because this is not a SAR deployment. The challenges, we were lucky enough to have to be hosted by the school, and so we were sleeping inside, not in tents. Take the same deployment and put all the volunteers in tents in the middle of winter, and you have a completely different deployment. You need a team to run camp. So we were lucky enough to be inside with eating. So in terms of challenges, I mean, other than that, in thinking about what could have gone wrong, I think this deployment was successful as well. I'm sure SARVAC learned from that deployment. We need equipment. We need, we need capable people, and we were very capable. But I think narrowing down the scope, understanding the scope before we deploy was a challenge in this particular case. But again, first one, everyone was kind of anxious to deploy, as a first time, and so, but nothing that we couldn't circumvent. When we got there, community was super receptive. And we tackled the task one at a time.
Yeah, thanks so much for that, Pierluc. You're absolutely right. We learned so many lessons from the Deer Lake First Nation deployment. Not that it went wrong in any sorts or were unsuccessful. It was actually very successful. But the knowledge and awareness that we took away from that going forward was absolutely fantastic. And we'll speak a little bit later about sort of where we've come. But if anybody was to ask me about Deer Lake First Nation deployment, it would all come down to communication for me. And if I could reminisce for a moment, I remember getting a call from the airline saying, "Well, our pilot is on the ground, but your team is nowhere to be found." And I kind of my face went white, and I was kind of like, "Where are they?" Like, and there was no way to communicate, right? And and now, so dealing with that at the time, which was just it came down to a miscommunications. But dealing with that situation and seeing where we are now, and implementing sort of a PACE system in our communications infrastructure, which stands for primary, alternate, contingency, and emergency, and ensuring that at any given time, our responders now have access to 4 different means of communications. It's just amazing to see sort of where we've come from, or how we've grown, I should say. Thanks again, Pierluc. Victoria, keeping along the same lines in those field challenges, rather. And some of this you've already mentioned, the deployment to Labrador West wildfires was much bigger than the Deer Lake deployment. The community or the province had requested 100 volunteers. There was 60 on the ground before we got the stand down that the evacuations were going to be lifted. And in addition, there was volunteers from Canadian Red Cross, Salvation Army, and St. John Ambulance. Also taking into consideration sort of that understanding that what's the first thing to go in an emergency? Typically is communications. How did you feel the communications were on the ground, and why? And I don't mean like sort of radio communications. I mean communications between yourself, the command post, the SARVAC National Instant Support Team. So those that were sort of supporting from away with the surveys and the email updates and those sorts of things. So you got a sense or a feel for how you felt those communications went for that deployment?
Yeah, for sure. So anything that we needed, right down to the schedule of shifts to where we were supposed to be, that was all posted outside the command post. You always knew where you were supposed to be. If you didn't, it was because you couldn't read. It was very clearly all laid out. Someone like myself who would have been doing like the shifts, would have just kind of checked in with the command post, who would have been checking in with you. So there was very clear communication chains into how all that worked. Anytime that you were, like, say, on a fire watch, somebody had a radio. If you're out on the gate, there was a team leader with that group who had the radio to get back in touch with command post in case something had to happen. The same thing, with the people on the highway, they had a way to get back in touch with the command post if something changed. What I did find in Labrador was that the situation was very fluid. It kind of changed, not drastically, but I think the number of evacuees that were expected versus how many actually turned up was a little different than what was anticipated. But again, we all knew what we were supposed to be doing because, the command post had a handle on everything that was happening from the main group there in St. John's. So there was never a question of, oh my goodness, what's going on? Like everybody knew, and you knew what you were supposed to be doing, when and where. And it was like that right from the people like myself to Kerm and everybody who would have been in the command post, and then you guys in St. John's.
Thanks so much for that, Victoria, and sort of, comparing yours and Pierluc's feedback and thinking along the lines of field challenges. Another topic that seems to come to mind is just the fluidity of the response, right? And you might be asked to do one thing, and all of a sudden plans have changed. Never mind that.
And we just went
the
with
road
it.
is open. Yeah. And
we went with it, right? We just kind of rolled with how it was, and thankfully, when you are a SARVAC volunteer, like, typically you have the same kind of personalities and the same like-mindedness, and you just make it work, and you improvise and you get it done, and that's what we did. But there wasn't much of that. It was like, oh, okay, so we're not doing this today. and that was kind of how it all went. And no, it was excellent. I can't say anything about it. We knew, though, when we left, that it wasn't tents or the school or anything like that we would be in the dorms at the Churchill Falls camp. So we knew we had beds to sleep in when we got there, and that cut down on the amount of gear that we had, for sure, for what we were going to have to take personally. So we didn't have the same kind of situations as Pierluc.
Yeah, no, for sure. And just having that ability to adapt and overcome. I mean, it's, I think it's just something that comes with every GSAR responder. And, I think that's why we're so successful in what we do. And, again, appreciate everyone's flexibility when it comes to that. Lawrence, if we could move forward now with the personal growth section, and we could probably spend, I guess, either one of these topics really we could spend a lot of time on, but this is certainly one I feel most excited about, and one that we could go down a huge rabbit hole or two. But Ross, if I could just ask you again, understanding that you're relatively new GSAR responder, uh, did your experience as a responder and taking part in the full-scale exercise Effective Impact 2024, has that impacted you personally or professionally? And if so, how so?
Yeah, thanks. Thanks, Paul. If I could sort of answer in two ways. On the one hand, boy, does it put running out of copy paper in perspective at work. Problems that seem like problems aren't real big problems when you're in the context of the kind of work that we're doing as volunteers. This is really important stuff, and it's great to know that it makes a big impact to people. And then the other way I'd like to answer, if you may, the Ottawa region was affected by a number of environmental sort of disasters year after year, it seemed like. And so great to know what's in the background and available in the future the next time something, God forbid, ever happens again. It was a tremendous eye-opening experience to see I know Pierluc mentioned the perhaps disorganization of the early deployment, but the leagues that had jumped forwards by the time of the 2024 full-scale exercise was tremendous. All the logistics seemed like they were damn near perfect, if you'll excuse. It seemed like it was a really well-oiled machine. Really, really cool to see the level of work that had happened in the background and how prepared everything was.
Ross, that's great to hear. And I had to throw two bouquets out. One is to the volunteers and in particular the planning team for that the exercise design team, I should say. There was an awful lot of work that went into planning that exercise, and we're so grateful for all the support that we received. And secondly, I just want to throw a bouquet out to that particular area. And Ross, you mentioned it. We chose this area because they are, I'll say, almost annually impacted in that community, mainly due to floods. And so we thought it was appropriate to sort of, hone our skills there in a place where, is no stranger to these sorts of impacts. And so, getting back to that bouquet is the community of Constance and Buckham Bay. They were instrumental in the planning and the execution of the exercise, from offering up a place to host us to feeding us, and the community members, supporting us and putting up with our constant requests and door knocking and whatnot. We're so grateful to have the support of the community to be able to execute an exercise like that. Victoria, again, keeping on the lines of personal growth, your deployment to Labrador, being the first, hopefully, of well, maybe I don't want to say many. I don't want to promote disasters, but sort of want to promote the SARVAC Humanitarian Workforce Program. But what did you learn about yourself through the deployment? And are there any messages that you have to the other GSAR responders out there who maybe haven't taken part in any of these activities that we're talking about here today?
Yeah, for sure. You always learn the best when you're uncomfortable, because if you stay comfortable, you don't learn, you don't grow, nothing, your mind doesn't stretch it, and it doesn't have to think beyond what is your normal. So I learned that I am capable of very amazing things when I let myself do these things. I definitely know more than what I give myself credit for. And being in those situations, to think on your feet and to be part of a team it's a great way to learn your limits and where your growth lies. So if I have a message to anybody who is thinking about deploying, or if you're nervous about deploying, or maybe you're like a brand new person to ground search and rescue, or to whatever your organization would be, this is your chance to grow. Like take whatever opportunity that comes your way, take whatever deployments you can, and absolutely love it, and learn everything and do all things, because you only get better as a person, and the more experience and the more tools that you have in your belt, the better you're able to help somebody when they're in need.
Victoria, what a fantastic message. Thank you for sharing that. I couldn't have said it better myself. Again, it's all about that personal gain, that personal growth. Lawrence, if we can move to our last topic here, which is program and community impact. And Pierluc, we're so thankful to have you joining us tonight, because you bring a different perspective when it comes to the SARVAC Humanitarian Workforce. And the reason I say that is because you were part of our first deployment, and you were also part of the full-scale exercise Effective Impact 2024. And given your experience with both, have you noted any key improvements which would have made a significant impact to your deployment to Deer Lake First Nation?
Absolutely, Paul. Again, every deployment, every exercise that I can take part of, there's something to learn, right? And so, as it was mentioned by Ross, the full-scale exercise that we went through, everything was so well organized. We knew what we had to do. I mean, there are all unknowns, but this is part of every deployment. So there's no problem there for per se. As SAR volunteers, we all know, we have to adapt, right? And we're there to help. And so tell me what to do and we'll do it, right? I think we all have this mentality of go-getter, essentially, right? And so full-scale experience was amazing. For me, the highlight of the full-scale exercise was damage assessment. This was something I wanted to get into, and so learning a bit about it and touching the subject. I mean, it's a wide subject, but was eye-opening for me as well, and so that was amazing. Everything we do has a big community impact. We all know this, whether it's a local search or these bigger deployments with SARVAC and the humanitarian workforce. We're there for the community. So as soon as we deploy, there is major impact to the local community, the little community where we're helping. And it's just overall a big learning experience every time we get to deploy, whether it's an exercise or a real incident or a real event. So I'm grateful to be part of such an amazing team locally here in Ottawa, but also overall with both Quebec and Ontario Association for our team. Where we are a very unique team which are kind of serving both communities, and overall with SARVAC through the humanitarian workforce. So grateful to be here and grateful to be part of such a great team.
Thanks very much for that, Pierluc. And you said it, and I want to reiterate it, but we're always learning. No matter whether it's on deployment or through exercise, it's important that we learn. And I think that's one of the key components within the 10 phases of our National Search and Rescue Operations concept, is that after action review. And we've completed those reviews now for every deployment and exercise we've been on. And we've started to publish those reports on our website, so the sarvac.hwf.ca. So for anybody who's interested in seeing those, they can go to the website and get those reports there and sort of see what some of the successes and what some of the challenges were, and some of the improvements that we've made or are working on or plan to make coming from those.
And
Ross,
Paul,
yeah,
if I can just add, I know Russ said
sure.
the first deployment was somewhat disorganized. I wouldn't say that. I would say this was the first deployment, and everything was unknown, right? And so, was everything in place, in order, and all that? Probably not, but the communication with the SARVAC team was amazing throughout. And so I know we had some challenges. We almost didn't make it to the plane, but other than that, I think it went really well. So I just wanted to make sure that the message didn't come across that everything was so disorganized. That's not the case.
Yeah, no, all good, and totally understand where Ross is coming from there. And I guess it's just the perspective of going into that particular deployment. There was sort of so much up in the air and maybe more unknowns than when we were deploying for the full scale exercise. Whereas everything was, there was time to plan, there was time to communicate, and there was sort of nothing left to chance, we'll say. So yeah, I certainly understand that perspective, and appreciate you wanting to clarify that. All good. Ross, moving to you, sir, within the program community impact, and given your knowledge and experience within GSAR and within the program, are there any challenges that you've sort of seen and noted? Or are there ones that you sort of hope to see that you haven't seen yet, in how GSAR is integrated into sort of the broader national emergency management framework, or even within the SARVAC Humanitarian Workforce Program?
I think it's a great question. Looking at where we've come from, looking at where we've arrived and where we're going, I think it's really exciting to see what the future of this program has in store. The next evolution of this program is going to be tremendous, and I'm really excited to see what that's going to be. I not to throw ideas out there that you guys haven't vetted yet, but the future adoption of technology, the future adoption of the professionalism, the training that all the teams have from coast to coast to coast is really exciting to me. I think as this program evolves, it's going to be a force to reckon with. And I hope that the feds provide the support in order to make this evolve in that direction. I'm so excited to see what's next. I don't know if I can give you a forecast for it today, but I bet it's going to be really cool.
Thanks, Ross. Yeah, I wish I had that forecast myself, but I do remain optimistic, and oftentimes we sort of had to look back and sort of report on what we've accomplished, and even taking part in sort of the planning of this particular webinar, and sort of you look back at the Deer Lake First Nation deployment up to the full scale exercise, and you see that amount of change, improvement, engagement with the volunteers. We've made significant efforts in increasing and growing this program within SARVAC, and I'm super excited about continuing that upward trend and getting more and more GSAR responders on board and supporting communities in need, because at the end of the day, again, academia is quite aligned. And what I mean aligned is that all the evidence is pointing to the same thing, the same outcome, and that is that these disasters, these hazards, are having more and more impacts and more significant impacts, and so we need to do more to prepare and also to respond to them. So at this point, this sort of concludes our panel discussion, and Pierluc, Victoria, and Ross, I thank you from the bottom of my heart for your participation and just sharing your experience with us with regards to your various levels of experience within different deployments and or training exercises and whatnot. Has been quite refreshing for me. And even being part of those, it's always great to hear a different perspective. And I hope, the public and other GSAR responders that are out there, take away something as well from what you shared with us this evening. So thanks so much to the three of you for joining and sharing.
Thank you.
Thanks, Paul.
Back to you, Lawrence.
All right. Thank you very much for that, Paul. And thank you, our panelists, for Ross and Victoria and Pierluc. It was very much appreciated. I've spent a lot of time in government, sort of at a national level, looking at Canada's search and rescue system. And our system in Canada actually has a very good reputation internationally. It's considered one of the best systems in the world. But I can honestly say it's not because we have a well-designed system. I think it's not a well-designed system, but it really is about the people. I think our system is phenomenal because of the people that we have in our system, the passion and the commitment they bring to the work that they do. It truly is phenomenal. And I think it's something that we probably need to celebrate a little bit more, because it's something that I think as a country and as a program and a capability, it's something I think we should all be very proud of. All right. I think I'm having some video problems with my camera, so I apologize for that. I know it's not coming through, but I don't think I'm much to look at anyway, so I think I'm going to continue on, and I'll keep things moving along for us. So the next part is with respect to volunteer support and insurance. As we kind of alluded to in this first portion, or on the panel discussion, is like we talked about, it's very much about the people. And at the heart of any program are the people in it. It's our volunteers. It's you, the volunteers of ground search and rescue on the call today. You are our most important priority, and you're the most important responsibility that we at SARVAC take in the development of the Humanitarian Workforce Program. It's our job to make sure that we can do everything possible to protect you, to support you, and to keep you safe when you're on deployment. And this is very much a part of our community writ large, whether it's SARVAC, whether it's you're part of a provincial or territorial association, or whether you're on a local team. This is a part of our culture, and this is who we are as a community. And this is very much reflected in the Search and Rescue Volunteer Association of Canada's humanitarian workforce. So how we protect people on deployment is paramount in what we do. So I'm going to ask Scott if he could bring up our video presentation on taking care of our volunteers.
When you step up to help others, we step up to support you. As part of SARVAC's humanitarian workforce, you bring comfort, safety, and hope to communities across the country. Whether it's sandbagging during a flood, checking in on remote families, or helping after a wildfire, your work makes a difference. And while you're focused on taking care of others, we're focused on taking care of you. SARVAC's mental wellness program is a responder-first approach to health. Every HWF member receives awareness training before deployment, so they can recognize and respond to signs of critical incident stress in themselves and others. During deployment, mental wellness guidelines help manage trauma, unwanted emotions, and on-site stress. If a responder needs a break, time away, or just someone to talk to, support is built into the structure. And when the mission ends, our care doesn't. Peer mental wellness teams offer group interventions, one-on-one outreach, and long-term resources. At SARVAC, care is more than a value. It's built into every detail of the mission. That includes on-site first aid, deployed through our dedicated mission support groups. Our MSGs ensure help is never far away. We follow established incident protocols, so no matter where our teams are, safety and structure guide every decision. We also understand that loved ones worry when responders are away. That's why we maintain family status updates, helping keep home informed and hearts at ease. And because well-being isn't just emotional or physical, we offer insurance coverage that protects our volunteers in case of accident, injury, or necessary leave due to an incident. With SARVAC, responders are never alone. They're supported, by systems, by people, and by purpose. Taking care of our people means supporting them on every level, mentally, physically, and financially. That's why we provide 3 layers of insurance coverage designed with volunteers in mind. Commercial general liability helps protect responders in the event of third-party incidents. Accidental death and disability insurance offers critical support if a responder is seriously injured or worse. And our wage loss disability coverage ensures income protection if recovery takes time. Because peace of mind isn't a bonus, it's a key part of being mission ready. Using integrated technology, we track the whereabouts of every responder, from the moment they leave home to their time in the field, and until they return safely to family and friends. Whether you're en route, on mission, or demobilizing, SARVAC's HWF systems, like Zello, GPS, and mission dashboards, keep you connected and accounted for. It's more than data. It's our way of saying, we've got eyes on you, so you're never out of reach and never on your own. We invest time, planning, and care into making every mission as safe and secure as possible, for every responder, in every environment. But if something unexpected does happen, you're not alone. We have clear protocols, pre-established agreements, and trusted processes in place to respond quickly, support you fully, and make sure you're taken care of every step of the way. Because preparation doesn't just mean planning for what we expect. It means being ready for what we hope never happens. We don't just prepare volunteers, we protect them. From mental wellness and medical support, to financial coverage, family communication, and field accountability. Every detail is intentional. Every system is in place for one reason. You matter. You are part of a national community, trained, supported, and trusted. Wherever the mission takes you and whatever it requires, SARVAC is behind you, from first briefing to home safe. Because caring for communities starts with caring for those who serve them. Thank you for responding to the call, with the courage to serve and the strength to care.
All right. Thank you very much for bringing that up, Scott. And I apologize. I was able to fix my video camera, so unfortunately, you have to look at me again. So as the video kind of demonstrated, we put a considerable amount of effort into how we take care of volunteers and our responders in the development of the Humanitarian Workforce Program. We have effective accountability systems where we track our volunteers at every moment from the time they leave their house until they get home again. We have first aid systems. Our first aid systems, what we call the mission support groups, are first aid for the volunteers should anything happen to them. We have incident protocols if something serious were unfortunately to happen. We have a mental wellness program, and it's an advanced mental wellness program where we will deploy mental wellness, what we call our peer mental wellness team on the ground for all missions to make sure that our people are being taken care of both physically and mentally. We have all forms of emergency management evacuation agreements in place. Before we deploy into an organization or community, we will make sure that we have agreements with the jurisdictions, that we have a way for emergency evacuations. And we take care of the families. It's not just about the responders. So we make sure that we have resources available for the families of our responders as well. And additionally, we're making a concerted effort now to start keeping our volunteer families made aware of what's going on in the mission, so they're not left out in the dark. We'll provide phone numbers and access points to our team to make sure that if they have any questions, that the families can reach out to us during missions as well. So we're making a concerted effort, and I think that's the least we can do for the people that take the time and put their lives on hold to go and help communities in distress. So with that, I think we are getting close to wrapping up. But one of the things, and I want to just go back for one thing. I want to think just to mention as well is our insurance program. So that was kind of like one of the cornerstones. So the video made reference to 3 types of insurance. There was the accidental death and dismemberment insurance, which is commonly referred to as AD&D, general liability insurance, And then most recently, we've been able to successfully adopt a lost wages insurance policy. So for many of you in a variety of jurisdictions, some you'll recognize that in some cases you're covered under workers' compensation, and other cases you're not covered under workers' compensation, depending on what jurisdiction you're in. SARVAC was able to develop a national lost wages insurance policy with an insurance provider so that anybody deployed under the Humanitarian Workforce Program will be protected should something happen and they're no longer able to work and support themselves and or their families. The wage compensation will be provided. There's constraints and there's rules and limits like all insurance programs. There's an age limit to it, but it's a fantastic start and something I think SARVAC is really proud to offer. And in right now, it's very much like a wraparound program that SARVAC now has when it comes to insurance. We're providing every kind of insurance possible to the volunteers to make sure that they're properly taken care of. So with that, I'm going to turn it back to Paul French, and Paul is going to help moderate a question and answer. So at this point in time, we're going to turn on the microphones, and I'll ask Scott if he could turn on the microphones. And before everybody starts yelling out the questions, we're going to ask that people kind of raise their virtual hands, and then Paul is going to moderate that session. Paul, back to you.
Thanks, Lawrence. And just want to make sure again you can hear me okay. Okay.
All good.
So folks, yeah, we're going to open this up. Scott is going to give folks the ability to be able to open up their mics now. As Lawrence said, if you do have a question, we do ask that you please raise your virtual hand first, and we will call you by name to ask your question. If there's something that you want to ask that maybe you're not comfortable asking, vocally, you can certainly always type your question in the chat as well, and we'll do our best to get to those as well. So, think of this as your time, and we have a few minutes here to ask the questions, and so feel free to do just that.
And first, we have a question from Dustin. Dustin, the floor is yours.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you for the presentation, everyone. It was great. The question I have is, what has other provinces and chapters been doing since training to advocate for HWF in their part of their locale?
That's a great question, Dustin, and I wonder maybe if I could just ask you to specify, are you interested in knowing more about sort of advocating for the program with their, I'll say authorities having jurisdiction, or advocating the program with their ground search and rescue members? Sorry to be technical.
Sorry, both actually. I think I'm more interested in advocating for it at the provincial side of things. Getting governments and your both municipal and provincial governments on board, the agencies, whether they're RCMP or fire departments. There are public safety agencies. That's where I'm more keen in finding out, how do I get these people on board? So what have other people been doing in the last, let's say, 6 to 12 months? And that could be, I guess, anyone online can answer that too, I guess. Or maybe everyone's been reporting to you guys on their weekly or monthly reporting in.
Yeah, for sure. No, I'm very comfortable in responding to that, Dustin. And I'll say it's been pretty broad. When it comes to the I'll say standardized approach, as SARVAC works very closely with our provincial and territorial associations, and those associations are huge supporters of SARVAC and really the cornerstone of the organization. And again, we're here for the volunteers. So when it comes to the SARVAC board of directors and those representatives in advocating for the program from a what I call the ground level or from the provinces and territories. It's a key step. And so it's been nice to have the partnership, I'll say, between our SARVAC, administrative team and our SARVAC board of directors, because SARVAC is able to, and we are in constant communications with Public Safety Canada, whether that's through their programs branch, policy branch, or their government operations branch. And so we're very much promoting what the provinces and territories are doing within their own jurisdictions and supporting communities in their time of need. But also we have the provincial and territorial associations and their boards of directors communicating to their municipalities, to their authorities having jurisdictions, and to their provincial governments about what it is we're developing. So from a program perspective, we're sharing regular reporting with the board of directors so that they're on top of all the changes and all the improvements to the program so that they can communicate that out. Additionally, we're taking steps, Dustin, such as this to sort of bring awareness around the program and sort of the advancements and around the capabilities and capacity. SARVAC is also meeting with, I'll say, senior officials in emergency management across the country through Public Safety Canada, and that's mainly facilitated through Public Safety Canada. I don't mean it as in we're going reaching out to the provinces and territories directly without going through the PT associations, but we're providing presentations there as well in conjunction with the other NGOs about the supports that we can provide. And then from a provincial level, again, Dawson, you may be aware, and some other folks may be aware of the training and exercising fund that SARVAC is providing to each association. We have, through some of those initiatives, some of the associations have also brought their PT governments on board to sort of bring their awareness and have them engaged in the development and also the operational aspect of those trainings and exercising programs. So I will just say that, when it comes for advocating the program, we're hitting it from all angles and all levels. And I think that's what's key here. And that, the communication is consistent with each of those levels and ensuring that, we have this community of champions across the country, in addition to the board of directors, to help sort of, continue that consistent messaging, not just with authorities having jurisdictions or other first response agencies, but also with the GSAR community as a whole. So that's been a very key and distinct initiative with regards to building that champion community now of over 60 volunteers, responders across the country.
Thank you.
You're very welcome.
Thanks, Dustin. Next, we have a question from Ron Lamoureux. Ron, the floor is yours.
Awesome. Paul, hey, greetings. Those associations that you were mentioning, in my head, I'm trying to grasp when it changes from local SAR response to HWF response. Like, how would you know, like, if we have something large scale in Alberta, does that go through our SAR association to you? Or does it go through fire, police, whatever? Like, I don't know how we get involved.
Ron, great question. Great to have you here. It's nice to be talking to you again, sir. We have a big crystal ball, though. I'm only joking. The communication's been key, up, down, and sideways with the PT associations. And I tell you, our board of directors have been absolutely amazing in keeping us informed when it comes to, I'll say emergency management or disaster response events within their provinces and territories. We recently had an initiative that just cooled up actually at the end of March. It was a pilot project, but within that pilot project, we developed a data management system, and part of that allowed us to develop a reporting structure that all the provinces and territories could report to on a regular basis. And so, Ron, initially, we were reaching out very grassroots level, very ad hocly when incidents were ongoing and saying, hey, do you have volunteers responding here? How many teams, what activities are they doing? Whereas now we're very much proactive, and that every Monday, every association receives a survey. And if there's no teams deployed in any sort of response, it's just a quick, no deployments happening at this time. Whereas, if there is a deployment, there's about 6 or 7 key questions we're asking. So basically, are you deployed? Yes. Who deployed you? Where are you deployed to? What task are you providing? How many volunteers do you have on the ground? And how many days have they been deployed yet? So every Monday, we get a great report back that's live to us. And every Tuesday, we're actually reporting into the Government Operations Center. So we're able to take that key information from the ground, from the GSAR team, local GSAR team, and plug it right up to the federal government so that they have the best situation awareness they can have in reporting on these types of incidents. That's the, I would say, the administrative way. Ron, I do also want to mention, I talked about the champions already, and I've heard from 2 champions today. One in Alberta. There's several forest fires there affecting different communities. I know GSAR is involved in there as well. And it's that quick email to say, hey, just to let you know, this is what we got on the go. Additionally, the same thing in Newfoundland. There's a couple different wildfire outbreaks at the moment, and we're getting communication in as well from that PT association. So it's great now that we've developed those relationships where it's not necessarily filling out a survey, but it's sending an email to our duty officer just saying, hey, just so that you're aware, this is ongoing at the moment. So it gives us that best operational or situational, awareness so that we're able to sort of stay on top of things, and that, when we get a request from the province or territory or the Government Operations Center, it's not a surprise to us. We're already aware, and we're already sort of planning in the background how we can approach that.
Can I just make one comment there too, Paul? To touch on it coming from the other direction for everybody's awareness. It goes the other way too. The government keeps us apprised of call outs that are coming in. So if there is anything federally that's kind of ramping up from any of the provinces or territories, we're involved with the Government Operations Center so that we have that capability, like Paul said, to be able to feed information directly to the right people who would be able to activate the HWF.
Ron, sorry, I might have just unmuted you, but I hope that answers all your questions there. If there's anything else that you'd like to add, the floor is still yours. If not, we do have some other questions in the chat, but feel free to let me know.
Yeah, all's good.
Great. We do have a question from Daryl in the chat. He's wondering, is there training under development which would enhance GSAR capacity beyond the 9 or 10 competencies in our CSA standard?
That's a great question, Daryl. I wouldn't say they're in development, but they are in mind for sure. It's a fine line, I guess, when we say are they in development. We do have other capabilities that we feel SARVAC or I'll say GSAR in general can provide our communities and Canadians in general. However, the 9 core service offerings that we offer right now are all, we specifically highlighted those and focused on those initially because they were what we were already providing. EM response for emergency management response for GSAR is not new. What this program is trying to do is break down those provincial and territorial borders and provide extra support to the provinces and territories. So we initially, just looked at the taskings and capabilities that we were already offering and just provide them on a national level. However, we do have, I'll say, items in the hopper when it comes to, large area search and so on and so forth. But we're not in the position yet to sort of push those forward, and that we're sort of trying to wrap up the last of the development of the 9 core capabilities that we have before we sort of move forward with more capabilities.
Thanks, Paul. And thank you, Daryl, for the question. Next, we do have a hand up from Sherry. Sherry, I'm just going to unmute you. Hi, Sherry.
Hi, Scott. Just a question, Paul. So in Nova Scotia, we have a, excuse me, a new Department of Emergency Management, and there's a whole new structure that we're looking at. And I know we had talked before about agreements with the provinces. So is that in place yet, Paul, or is that something to be worked on maybe when we get our new department here?
That is in process. The drafted agreements have been recently updated as of a number of weeks ago, Sherry. And I would the board of directors will be seeing some direction on that in the coming weeks here. But I will say that is our next, or our current high priority, is getting those agreements in place. And so when you look through some of the after action reviews, some of the aspects with the insurance policy and some of the planning processes and all those sorts of things, we've sort of been marking things off the list as we go. But I would say our current priority is those agreements and just making the provinces and territories aware of those agreements, so that when we do need to put them in place for incident specific, they're not new, and they're not scary, and the province and territories are already quite comfortable and expecting them rather than sort of seeing them for the first time. So, and we'll be doing that right across the board, and in conjunction with the board of directors and the association. So, I would say, stay tuned, Sherry. We'll be knocking on the door soon.
Thanks, Sherry, and thank you, Paul. By the looks of it, I'm not seeing any other hands up. We're only just slightly in overtime, but if there are any final questions, speak now or forever hold your peace. Alternatively, I'd say that's pretty much it for now.
All right.
Thanks,
Thank you
Scott.
very much for that, Paul.
Oh, you hit mute there, Lawrence.
I swear I had that unmuted.
We
All right.
heard. Thanks very much, Paul.
All right. And Janelle for jumping in there, and for everybody who participated in that. I hope it answered questions. If there are more questions, please, feel free to send them our way. If you want to learn in a more passive way about what's going on with the humanitarian workforce, come to our website, which is sarvac HWF.ca. So that's www.sarvac HWF.ca is our website. And of course, a big thank you to all of you and for your participation, and not just for your participation today, but for what you do for our communities. We want to extend a sincere thank you to all your current and past volunteers, the humanitarian workforce. Your dedication, your service exemplify the spirit of ground search and rescue across Canada. And I think this event and this has been a tribute to the invaluable contributions that you all make. So with that, I will say thank you very much. For those that are interested, it is a 2-2 tie between Toronto and the Panthers. So it's a close game. It's second period. There's still a little bit of time left if anybody wants to catch it. But the real action is tomorrow when the Oilers play again. So with that, I will say thank you all very much. Thank you for participation. Thank you for what you do, and have yourself a great evening.